we're live outside
Speak
with
the
the
words,
comrades
Gary.
here, all the members of the revolution,
Yes, I.
from peace to men to God, we evolve all the time, metamorphosis. It's the rising of all the comrades, the activists, all the people, and the top of the monopoly system. As die griep is ek diep aan my lyne moet sy vriend, net soos kook binne jou nuus, dis ek drop hit op hit. Ons bom jou klik, my mense stiek net opsies in my opstiekers, nou obsolete. Hy niks salut, hy die lease, ek's too elite, ek's too unique. Ek bring die heat, jou brains ek feed. Dan top die speed, ek top die speed, ek skop die speed. Skop die koppe van rappers saam in my kennis, want nou kennis is soos Dennis, die mennes kom om my in my, you see. Born in the jungle, ek jungle, hustle and scarrel, so what? Don't look for trouble, but trouble is always looking for car. Ek het die plak met die main switch, die lead en die kracht. Die sal die bleed soos 'n vrou wat 'n baba verwag. Dis almal analyze, these gangsters paradise. In plaas van hande sal ons jou siel moet sanitize. Jy word gevictimize, want jy gaan realize as jou die mais op die vel en sy is aanwys.
Ai! Like guns.
Blood, we cry blood. That's why there's a saying in the reggae music, cry blood Africa, cry blood. Because it's not physical tears that we cry anymore. It's a distortion and it's a decolonization that we're busy planning with this. All the revolutionaries, you see, we gonna gather all the people together with the great minds that think alike, the common interest that we find. Because it's not everybody that wants to make the change. They say one man can't change the world, that is a lie.
So as an individual, as a young activist, I would like to say that the older generation doesn't have a plan. They want to talk about the UDF, they want to talk about, yes sir, those are all UDF, the treatment action campaign, they had millions of rands behind it. Today, me, Jordan, other young people that are really having an Afrofuturist, anti-post-structuralist, anti-neoliberal narrative is not getting backing by the neoliberal funders and them posing with it. So that's basically the follow-up of this, because this is a follow-up to Common Ground, whereby this dialogue, this critical dialogue on the lack of support from the OGs, the lack of support from the struggle veterans, the lack of vision, the lack of know-how from them to operate in this post-structural, this old Zionist world that we're operating in. So this is where we act, as a so-called colored, as a black man, we can. That's also things, we all have our own theory and our own praxis and our own scholar activism that we do and what we operate from. So that's basically the gist.
Some context around who I am. So I work as an activist in the city with various organizations around various issues, but specifically around history. So I work with the Streets Museum, and a big part of our organization is the feeling or the understanding that we can't undo the things in our communities without understanding what has actually happened. And we move from a position where we say that the Rainbow Nation and the Born Free narrative is propaganda. It's intentional propaganda. And so when you deprive people of their history, that's a tool of oppression, right? So that's the politics that we move from.
Ask yourself, who am I? Where I come from? Try to trace your bloodline of your origin, of your DNA. Because all of us who sit in this room, we all have a little bit of the Khoi DNA in us. Because if you are the First Nation, everybody originates from the First Nation. What you explain?
Can I ask another question?
The reason I'm asking this to you because you hear how he has changed his narrative, and yes, we come from the hip-hop is black consciousness, we come from that, and I heard you when you break down your lyricism you spoke about how the history and how your wordplay on your blackness, and African history and ancient history, and so now we see this. What would your reflection be, and within the current, I wouldn't say it's a race thing, we have this thing of conflict or conflicting ethno identity, which is our ancestral poem, which is colored, and with race. Because technically, but now what would your reflection be on his frustration and our frustration in the current dynamic as black people?
Very quick. It's layered, because like our crew's called Black Noise, because we saw ourselves coming out of apartheid as black, and then being confronted with, nah, you're not. Like I remember clearly for the stadium. So often you forget. And they say, make some noise for black noise, and you walk on stage and you hear, oh, color.
Yeah.
People expected the idea was black. And I was like, I took the mic and I was like, I was about to say I'm more fucking black than all of you here. But I was like, because it really angered me that this is what we confronted with in the so-called New South Africa. But then it dawned on me like, fuck all content was changing. Like people still see these boxes as the reality, right? Until today, I'm a qualified school teacher, and none of that shit is in the education system. Purposely, like it was negotiated out of the education system. So everybody is exactly where they were during apartheid, in the view that they had. And so the only way that change can happen is for us to find all of these places and put information out there, right? And so that's what you saw. I'm 54 and I'm on TikTok giving fucking information, sharing. But it's necessary because all that is over there is like a lot of what is this kids searching.
Really?
But like all these struggles are talking like big fucking words like praxis and shit, and the lefties aren't getting that shit. It's like rhetoric. Right? So the activism needs to be in the community. Because these children aren't stupid. These children know they're like fucking searching for the information, but it's not there.
Yes.
We're not making we're not actually activists.
Truly.
We're talking activism.
So
we're not
media.
in the because where's the action in activism? You know what I mean? And so like the work is on us. The work is all on us.
You know, what is your input on that issue of blackness, coloredness, and the shifting narrative and the need for unity? You know, what would your reflection be? And how would we create that cohesion as a creative and as someone who creates as well?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Miss Morena. I'm an artist, I'm a performer, I'm a rapper. I'm from the Northern Cape province. I'm from Uppington. I was born in Uppington, raised in Kimberley. I was actually having I'm getting there. I was actually having this conversation yesterday about the historical significance of the Northern Cape province, which is also a narrative that is not being spoken a lot, and there's obviously reasons for this. This is all deliberate, you know. This systematic thing is there in place to keep us separated, to keep us disunited, to keep us disinterested in each other's narratives, which is basically narratives of ourselves, you understand? So in the Northern Cape province, I always like to describe it as a settlement where it's like in the center. It reminds me a lot of DRC, the heart of Africa. It's in the center of South Africa. And when we separated, all the tribes were all together, and you know, the Xhosas came to the Eastern Cape, and then from the Eastern Cape, some of them came here to the Western Cape. The Zulus went to the where, east side? To the east side, and went to KZN. You get the Sutus, the Tswanas that went there next door to the northwest and Free State and whatnot. So it was like a star, and everyone just went. But then what was left was, you know, remnants of Xhosa, Sutus here, and there. But in general, everyone there speaks Afrikaans because of the settlers, and they're taking away our language because we have to understand them and we have to communicate in a language that they understand, which means that we're speaking narratives that they want us to speak. And so when people are always asking me, you know, I Xhosa, you Sutu, and you know, because Morena is actually derivative from Sutu, which means God, Lord, Chief, and also Spanish, which means black woman. And I always like to talk about the fact that this separation of this, you know, tribalism, even though we should be very proud of our roots and everything, but essentially they are all connected. And the reason why this is not spoken a lot is because that connection between us, whether it is just people with tribes or as black or colored or this and this, that connection is deliberately, you know, being played with so that we don't identify that, so that we don't, unite.
There's so many beautiful things coming out of here. Yes. And so many people I can feel around me who want to speak. And what you touched on is really important, that I think that this movie touches on a lot of things. Not only the economy, not only the politics. Also who we are and we are citizens and what it makes.
So Grip is there, so Grip is with Isaac, Patrick, the question was once again about our struggle in the Western Cape specifically, which is very much still a VOC government, if you know what I'm saying. We're still under the VOC, we're still under the company, in more than one sense, especially in the Western Cape. The Cape exit, all of that. But now, also as someone that is very active, someone that is on the ground, someone that is in the community, someone that is operating with ISIC and seeing what ISIC has gone through and is still going through, and where we need to move to as a society, because ISIC is, the mutant is also just a particular of a universal, this is just one, but it's all over the Western Cape, all over South Africa. You will find the downtrodden, the oppressed, the brilliant, the geniuses, the innovators at the lowest rungs of society, unable to use their genius, unable to use their ability, and so traumatized with post-traumatic stress and all of that. But on the issue of blackness, colorness, Africanness, and the oppression, inside the community and from outside of the community, what is your reflection before we go to the floor?
I introduce myself again.
Yes.
Call me influencer. Afrikaans version. Yes, actually, I don't need to talk, to be honest. If you search now there on YouTube, Mr. Creep, I will play them one video that will analyze your whole question.
Yes.
Just go on something of its own nature, its own kind. That is where I come from. I'm a Bushman.
Yes.
My bloodline is mixed race. Like in Bill's concept, mixed mensen. So, if you have mixed race, like, I'm actually the proof of the product of colonization that happened in Africa. The colored people is the original owners of this country. But the reasons for that is we've been brainwashed, what they call whitewash. I don't want to be racist, I talk about rich and poor, wealth, and I talk about terminology like Ibn Selassie taught us. Under the color of a man's skin is no more significant in the color of his eyes. Under the basic human rights are equally guaranteed to all without regard to race. It's up to all. Until there's no longer first class or second class citizens of any nation. It's up to all. And until the basic human rights are equally guaranteed to all without regard to race. It's up to all. So until that time, where we're not going to check people by the color of the skin, color of your hair, how straight your hair is, or how cruise your hair is, or your looks, or we look people by their personality. If you have a dark soul, you are dark for us. Because the poison work with energy. We were the first astrologers without any telescopes or anything. We discovered star signs in this, what you call the constellations. So the information that I have, the government will kill me. People like me, like Esli Kriel, like Anton Franz, people like Alan Susman, that's people. They get killed. Look at Chris Hani. Look at Thabo Mbeki, them, all their families, the Mandela family. Mandela, for me, personal opinion, he was the biggest sellout in the African history. You can kill me with that statement, but I say it with confidence. He could have changed the cultural laws, the democracy. Democracy is an American system that is implemented in Africa. By the time the Americans and the British came, Cecil John Rhodes, you will still see that picture on the internet where we stand from Cape to Cairo. That's how the British dominated. So the battle was actually an Outbay. Outbay's original name is Gora Haikona. It's a Khoi name which means flower of resistance. The flower of resistance up until today, if you set a mountain alight, the only flower that's not going to burn is the protea. That's why it's a national flower of our country. That's a saying for unity and diversity. So when I speak, I will greet you all in my mother tongue. If I say kaites, you say kaites mire, which means hello, and you will reply, hello, how are you? Then I will reply, kaisi hare, kaisi ure, koi gangas, which means go well, go safe, I'm blessed. You see, so slowly we are unlearning and decolonization, like my name is Colin. I'm writing a song that I call Decolonization.
Respect.
You know that this is the neo-colonial system don't live in, doesn't work. But we don't teach our kids, and I mean even a lot of us.
Hello everyone, sorry.
There are other systems at work, like anarchist systems, anarcho-communism, which kids don't learn about at school, right? So if you want to talk about a different system that we need to have, you have to be able to explain what these systems, how these systems should work. Because otherwise a capitalist is going to say, how is anarchism going to work? So kids are not taught, they're not taught about different systems, and I think that's one thing that needs to, like a system that works better for rural communities. And yeah, so that's the one thing. And then I want to, and Jordan, is she here?
She just said that.
Tricky Bay heads up, and I have a question. Good. So like I totally agree with if I got this correct, and forgive me if I took this wrong away, but that Isaac was saying about, it sounded like he was instigating revolt, and so, which I don't think is a problem at all, because, I mean, like my sister was saying, there's a proactive...
What is the substance of that revolt?
Well, I'm going to ask now. So, as you were saying, there's a proactive...
Is it a revolution?
There's a proactive campaign to hold people down, right? So why shouldn't there be a proactive campaign to fight that? And if the word that you want to use is hate or anger, I mean, hate and anger is useful, and there's been so much hatred put on colored and black and poor and marginalized people that it's like Malcolm X, why should he turn the other cheek? You know, and like with armed resistance, if you've got an army shooting at you, pick up a fucking gun. There's nothing wrong with that, you know? And that doesn't mean that there's not love in that resistance. It's just that love's being shown in a different way.
Everybody is telling our stories. I'm able tomorrow for work. I don't have clothes, I don't have taxi, I must be starting for that shit. Then I must stop on the back the end of the month. I really don't have clothes for my interview, even though I don't have a job.
The whole thing is this. If you are a cheap labor worker, you work on a construction company, you work in a factory, like here by us in the fish factory, the people still get 13 rand an hour.
Sure.
I burned that factory to the ground. I was the guy who burned it down. Because in this post apartment, you still get 13 rand an hour. You must work 10 hours for 130 rand. I just sell one banky of ganja. I make that money.
In that mother's eyes, it's like, yo, I understand my son is in some conflict and shit right now, but it's putting food on the table. Sending my youngest baby to school, meaning that maybe that child has an opportunity to not follow the same line. It's not that I want to come out for my child, but it is helping, even though it is bad. So now we keep quiet about drug dens, which is a bad thing in our community, yes, but it's also like, you know what? As a no special cohesion, I'm full with that numbers, I have for the community behooriging and what it is. That is what is also so honger. What's this book? What's this what?
Simple.
Like our anger is not even anger. If we sit with that emotion long enough, as a community we realize that it's just fucking trauma. Because we're so tired of fucking suffering. And we take also the same thing, like if you take someone that works in Cape Town and they stay in like Mitchell's Plain, they have to travel to work, now they have to get up early, they have to deal with traffic and what. If you take someone that stays just so it's going to take us through. Like I'm already tired before I started my 9 to 5. But that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Okay, that's what I mean. I thought you were just I got
you. You know what's a peaceful protest? A peaceful protest is actually when everybody
I'm not talking about peaceful protest.
A peaceful protest is for the law-abiding
Children's
citizens.
fucking library.
Okay, we will Uncle Bruce. Uncle
You
Bruce.
can burn down the library, but you can't take the information out of my head.
Uncle Bruce.
You the library.
I want to actually
You
say
the
for the progressive inputs. I give thanks for the elders, for the OGs, for the fruits, for the seeds, for the future in this decolonization process. So I want to give it over to the floor. From my narrative, I'm an Afrofuturist. And not any type of an Afrofuturist, I'm a decolonial Afrofuturist, and I deal with black liberation theology. So we found that the black liberation theology that was given to us by the likes of Busak then is a colonial black liberation theology. So even black liberation theology needs to be decolonized. if we understand. So we now need to go to the era of black liberation, theology, prophecy. And theology doesn't revolve around a specific faith or a specific religion. Theology revolves around the divine Godhead ruling over the earth and over all human, indigenous, cultural, and religious systems. So when we speak about theology, we speak about the universal divine Godhead. You know, we're not speaking about any one specific faith. We're speaking about supreme mysteries of spirituality. You know, that some esoteric stuff is there.
Thank you.
Let me give it to the closer. As a young person, as I mentioned how I've met all my elders, how I've went to Nombolo, we call it Nombolo, when you go and you seek the files. So I've known Bolod, Dagmo, I've known Bolod, and then Busak to an extent. What? So, you know, I've had conversations, I've sat with Marius Fransman in his beloved Cubana, you know, and I had a conversation with him and I asked him, what's the plan going forward? I've spoken to the lieutenants of Gayton Mackenzie. I've asked him what is the plans going forward, and nobody really has a plan. So in the Western Cape, we're dealing with economic oppression. Africa is dealing with economic. Dalim Pofu's son wrote the book. He's now a lecturer, I think, at UJ. Yeah, he wrote the book Economic Apartheid. So now in South Africa and in Africa, we deal with neo-colonization. Kwame Nkrumah theorized it very well. There was a time when they spoke about the colonization from within and the colonization from without within the less intellectual spaces. Even in the Cape Colony, whereby there was different groups discussing the different issues and how there were the Trotskyists, there was the UDF people, there was the staunch Marxist-Leninists like the likes of Ashley Krill, etc., etc. So my question now is, as young people that are very clear and very wise and that are having everything on the radar and all the tabs are open. If you know, we're keeping tabs on everybody. And this issue of neo-colonization, we also have tabs on all the civil society, NGOs, all of them funded by D.G. Murray, you know, all of them through to the ambassador program of Sunshine Cinema, Back to Future, Elect of Lindiwe Mazibukwe, all of them. In South Africa, we're observing Activate, we're observing Yali, we observe everyone and the politicians. So we have a hold on civil society and we have a hold on the political sphere and the civic sphere, if you understand what we are meaning. So my question is, how are we going to deal now with this neo-colonization of Africa, the ownership of Africa's minerals? Haile Selassie founded the AU in 1963. He gave us the blueprint. He said Africa must have its own bank. Africa. Then Gaddafi came. Gaddafi basically stole it. Didn't want to give recognition to who's the original founder. Our first president, Mandela, was actually an Ethiopian because he came into the country with an Ethiopian passport. You know, but that's all of that. But now, how are we going to move to that blueprint of industrializing Africa? Decolonizing our economic ownership. If you look at Cape Town, if you look at the Western Cape, the service provided to the government here, you know, if you look at big tenders, capital projects, where's the money going in the Western Cape under DA municipalities? Who's the, you know, how are we going to change that so that we can become service providers, so that we can go into schools? When are we going to change the Western Cape Cabinet and the MEC so that we can go and implement our programs in the Western Cape schools? You know, what's going on here? Because the DA is giving laptops, they're giving contracts to kids that have tech companies and they can go and do things in the location and go be architects and create green spaces. What's really happening? You know? Is because in apartheid, civil society was there, artists were there, and they had their little niche, they had their little queer space, they were having their little pockets to operate from. Are we still just repeating that again and being comfortable in our artistry while colonization and neo-colonization continues? And are we going to sit in our pockets and be fine and have our professional life and send our kids to good schools while the rest of Africa and South Africa continues to go into greater economic divides, while we as young professionals are just comfortable with making a comment? And you know, what's going to, like, what is the way forward? That is what I'm asking to the elders and to the floor. Yeah, thank you, sir. My leadership.
And so it's from doing. And I get very emotional about how much power we have here. But we're wasting that power on like speaking. Like if we were taxed on words, we'd be fucked a long time ago. You understand what I'm saying? Like if your words had power, like in the beginning was the word and the word was made man, biblical. Like our words, our thoughts manifest into reality if we let it. You know? I work with like the very first crew he was with called Play Madness. I went to them, I said, Kiki, I got this money from somewhere. They asked me to put that one CD. I was like, nah, fuck that. Here's the money. I'm going to press up 100 CDs for your owners, Playing Madness. And then I'm going to hold back what it costs. I'm going to hold back so much CDs and try and sell it. Our community, as much as we talk about support, will not fucking spend our money on our own people. I still have Playing Madness CDs from 1990 something.
Yeah.
This is a telltale sign of the depth of our self-hate. We speak revolution, but our actions, like people who tell me like, take for youngster. You know why youngster is where he is? Because the Muslim community fucking support their people.
Yes.
They don't talk, they support financially. It's why Lukman Adams, Emo Adams, Talib Peterson, Youngster Riyadh, Shaheen from Prophets of the City, got where they wanted to be because that community put their money where their mouth is. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so we have, like when Youngster saw what we were doing, he was the only MC to come to me and say, Neil, can I go along on a tour? When he went on the tour, I was shocked, he was shocked. Every lighting, and every school, like I have a picture of this at, what's the school, Crestway. When you look into the audience, everybody was rapping, every word, and he didn't have a deal. He looked at me, I was like, hey bro. A short while afterwards, he got like a fracht, I don't know, Cell C or MTN to pay him to do that exact same tour.
Yeah, this year he started with it. So his school tour was, sorry sir, was his school tour initially from your, was it teaching from
Yeah, he came along to learn from the process. And this is what elders are supposed to do.
Yes, sir.
You understand? It's not to block people out, but to also for the young people to say, Kiki, how can I get involved and learn from? Because this is like my brother said, African way is for the elders to pass on the knowledge for free.
Every time our communities protest, whether or not there's like fires, whether or not there's stones, the police will come, they will brutalize us, they will arrest us, they will injure us, they will kill us, right? Regardless of whether we sit
Stepping
down
up, Ms.
or
Morena.
because it's not about.
Hi, thank you for your presence. Yeah, thank you.
It's not about our manner of protest. They don't care about that. It's about our skin color. It's about our class, right? So like I mean, just using Fees Must Fall as an example, when the white students, it's a thing we all know, but when the white students protested with us, the police were fine, right? The white students would stand in front of us, but when the white students weren't there, in 5 minutes the police would come and we would have rubber bullet wounds on our bodies, right? So it doesn't matter how we protest. It's the system and how they see our forms of protest. And then my second point, and I think I mentioned it earlier, is about resources. When I got arrested during a protest, I had to go through 5-6 court appearances by myself. The protest had calmed down, everyone went back to their normal lives, the struggling women had, I had to stand in front of the magistrate by myself over like 9 months, right? And so there was no resources. I was lucky enough to get a pro bono lawyer, but I was by myself. So I think if we are going to say like let's take to the streets, let's be revolutionary, we need the resources, we need the money to be revolutionary. Because that's what happened during apartheid, as Heinz said, like if you went in exile, if you decided to be like Bruce and Emil can say that they used to be teachers and they decided to become activists. I can't leave my job because I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. Like, there's no resources for me to be an activist. I have to do it after work. Like, I have to leave my job and then be an activist. Like, it's not.
I want to be in court. Post-apartheid trauma and the apartheid trauma is still the same because it's been repeated over and over. And based on what she said now about how they conform everything to you always the wrong one. The police come now in your house. he sued you, then you go to court. You understand? I was also in jail for the riot. But then, you know what happened while I was in the cells? The people was burning the harbor.
But you
You
know, I
understand?
like what you said.
Revolution is a revolution.
But you're pointing to the intergenerational discussion that's
The same ideas I taught are not teaching. They are trying to sell this idea of like, I can make money from this and that. Oh, Red Bull. Fuck Red Bull. We see more people overseas than Red Bull do. And they are a multinational company. We have money. But our thinking, when I watch the movie, the thing I see is one story being told about us. And I get really pissed off when people tell one story about us. We're not, every township I've gone to, good people are the fucking majority. Not gangsters. They're a fucking handful of assholes that tell our story for us because the narrative is dictated by white supremacy.
Yes, sir.
And fucking academics that go there and tell the story for their thesis from their perspective for their thesis. Nothing else.
Yes,
You understand? They have an agenda when they go in there. I found out like a week ago, I've been quoted over 100 times in academic spaces. I have no fucking idea. When I read the fucking stuff, I'm like, you took a portion of what I said and you used it for your angle. Right? And these are brasses of ours that do that. And you never get to see the story. You never get to watch the video. Like I did a Cape Flats film festival. You know what it is? It was me with a overhead projector and a fucking a screen. 30 schools, my bro. I went to go show Afrikaans.
Sure.
To 30 schools. Because the people who made Afrikaans, they made it. They played it at the Baxter. They played it in a couple of thinking spaces. And they had dialogue. And the lighties were in it. Never got to see it in that. I was embarrassed. I was like, yeah, this wasn't played at your school. This is like 7 years after we made the document.
Sure.
You get what I'm saying? So like we need to hold these people accountable. Like whoever made this documentary needs to be played where Isaac lives. Needs to be played daar in die hout by over. Waar moet koppies uitgegee word? You get what I'm saying? They must be chopped up and put onto TikTok. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
This is our job. And it's free to do that. But we rather want to intellectualize and when we say that this clicks come from the Bushman and like words are embedded in here from our ancestry and that we're more alike, you know, that we have this commonality. They all like, yeah, why didn't nobody tell us this before? So instead of going there being angry, like you were saying that they were like, nah, they want your help. You know what I mean? If there's a way to have the conversation where people see that we have this commonality, then we need to read where we are at. Like the same like I'm saying with TikTok. I was like, I don't want to be on this. But when you take the leap of faith and share and find ways that embrace instead of anger, then you know, and that's exactly what the Bushmen did. They found solutions that are not based on anger, but ways of commonality. You know what I mean? And that's really the way forward. You know, and then this community won't be so small. And you have
and hence, you know, if maybe we didn't have a VOC, then gentrification was also going to be able to be addressed. But seeing that we're under VOC government in the city council and we're under VOC government under the province, we can't address gentrification because there's a lack of a political alternative. So we must also not be too much social justice and then we don't actually address the VOC government. You know, we need to bring them under 50% by any means. So what I want to thank everyone. Next month is the 10th or 16th, the 10th year of Marikana, 16th of August.
Yes.
So I invite you, my leadership, and the people to come and occupy the space. I invite the Institute of
We actually
to create a dialogue, screen it and create a dialogue. So let's do that. I want to thank everyone for your presence. I want to thank you for your energy. I want to thank you for your intellect. I want to thank you for your contribution to the space, man. May the Most High bless you, and may the Most High cut and clear the ways, and may the Most High bless you with capital so that you can empower more people. May the Most High bless you with resources and opportunities that you don't gatekeep progressive people that have visions. May the Most High bless your family. May the Most High bless the space. Thank you, man. That's basically it. May you reap the fruits of what was discussed here, and may the energy that we poured into the space open up portals in other spaces, you know.
Yes.
And may we find the resources to empower and host an Isaac Mutant show one day and empower all our artists. Let's, you know, because that's, as people in the cultural space, in the geek space, it's all about money to empower artists, to book the artists, to book the photographers, to book the space, so that the money and the economy can always just be flowing. So hence we ask for resources to pay the lawyers. So when we do go burn down the thing, come and bail me out, guys. You know, I don't want to sleep for 2 days in the cells and be non-followed by the number. Anyway, so that's that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andre Marie. I'm the owner of Circus Bookshop, bottom here, and it's a great honor. I just want to say that it doesn't matter, but it's the only black-owned bookshop.
In the Western Cape. Yeah.
In fact, one of only 2 in the country.
Yes.
Right? You know, so
It is the best books I've seen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So it's a great honor to have this meeting here tonight and to have this level of discussion. Just like Emil, it doesn't matter. I'm also an ex-high school teacher in a place you might have heard of called Delft. I was there for 12, 13 years. It fucking destroyed me, man. You know, it's a difficult. Let us not ever underestimate what is going on in our communities. Right? You know, and we've got to be there, you know. And just to come back here to the bookshop, the only way bookshops like myself is going to survive, okay? Trying to do it's not just a black-owned bookshop. We're trying to be a radical bookshop. So we're going to need you to come and support us. It's no use me having events like this, and you rush off home tonight and you never come back again. So you need to come back and support. The space downstairs in the shop and the space up here is available for you to meet and to discuss. The other crazy thing about the mobilization, right, around issues like this, that we will leave and it will never happen again. It's never something we build on, that we form something that's consistent, that we connect. You know, these discussions is amazing, but it's gonna go nowhere if we don't do it regularly, in a consistent way, that we leave here with phone numbers and connections and networks, and we commit ourselves to meet again. And we meet again in bookshops, you know. You can please meet in the communities, but come and meet in my bookshop, please. I need you to do that. You know? I need you to do that. I struggle with the rent, of course. You know? Gentrified Woodstock. Have no illusions. Where I taught in Delft. There's a little space very close to Delft called British Dorp. Where does it come from? It came from communities that had moved from here. Saltro, Woodstock. That then moved people from here. Apartheid lives and continues. Gentrification is a continuation of apartheid. Let us not forget that. And I know that people talk about colours, and you got your opinions. My opinion, I believe in non-racialism. You've got to believe that. Divide and rule is a strategy to demobilize us. Yes, be proud of. I'm not saying don't be coloured. I'm not saying don't be isiXhosa. I'm just saying don't let that be let that be a unifying thing that you connect up with other communities. Yes, we've been damaged, we've been destroyed, right? Okay? But don't let us continue apartheid with the language that our oppressors gave us. When we believe in non-racialism, and it's, we've got to believe in it and make it work, right? We've got to make it work.
Come, yellow bone.
Come in, we're gonna smoke off the chalwa. See
Bless,
how the
bless.
activism is smoking. We smoke ganja in the street. We say fuck the police.
Fuck the
Keep the
police.
peace, keep it green. No, my favorite color is green, if you know what I mean.
Respect.
I wash you clean like Omo in a washing machine. You know what I mean? My tongue is like bullets, I spit like a Uzi machine. What I spit, I'm not mean. I'm so blunt, they call me evergreen. You so fake, I eat you up like beef or steak. I'm a vegetarian, but I also eat hake. You call me a pescatarian.
Ground forces already drop on target. The aim stays steady. Dream states cleaning the dirty, Medi.
Ons is altijd steady, ik ken Gaddy, ons doen het net zo, ons pakken Gatti, ik kan niet vallen.
Paradigms, chakras align all the time.
All the time.
We want what is ours, we don't call it crime.
Kom die Kundalini, ik wil eens meer bij mijn brazen Gialini. Ik schud nog altijd met die mouster, ik schud die Alini. Als ik move in die streets, move ik met die beat. Ik zal doen maar die beats defeat, zoals ik die beat. Met mijn boxing glove, wijs ik voor jou wat is stuff. Ik is die woord tussen die evil en die love. Kom met de in-between. Soos 'n kallet. Ek is 'n man met 'n gat in my wallet, 'n gat in my sak. Jare, ek word dan nou nog altyd betrap. Die government wette, wit mense, ryk mense, arme mense, swart mense, even die koeie en die kallet. Ek het nog altyd met 'n jongen. Ons is een, ons roekie ganja boom. My favorite color is groen. Ek het nog altyd 'n kallet wat droom van 'n miljoen. I'm the one in the million. As 6 van julle en julle is die zeros en hy maak 'n miljoen. Verstaan jy? Ek is zoom as 'n klein kind. Ek steel die geld van die land en dan gee ek dit weer terug aan die armes.
Liberate yourself, man. Do the works in your community. Yeah, man. Be conscious, seek the light, seek the way, you know. Seek faith, you know. We are fighting against forces seen and unseen, you know. Wickedness in high and low places, you know. We have to take action. There's a lot of talkers, there's a lot of planners, but there's not enough implementers, not enough manifestors, you know. And then moving around doesn't always mean you're moving forward, you know. So there's a lot of people making moves, but they're not moving forward. They're not progressive. They're not advancing. They might be alternative. They might be different. They might be emotional. You know what I'm saying? They might be on Zen. They might be on whatever, but they're not being progressive. They're not questioning the system. They're not seeking justice. They're not going out there and addressing oppressors. They're not addressing systems that oppress and keep us poor and keep us uneducated, keep us in a mode of savagery, keep us in a mode of not knowing that we are gods on the earth, you know. So we must fight against those things, you know, and not just make a comment on Facebook or make a comment in the church, or you know what I'm saying. We actually need to go, because a lot of people are just fine with being commentators and commenting on the guy in the arena, commenting about the player in the field. It's easy, we can all put on, you know, Messi uniforms, and then we critique Messi playing on the field. But you don't know what that man is going through there on the field, man, you know. So it's easy to be a commentator, you know, and to commentate on the gladiators in the arena, to sit on the pavilion, you know, and be entertained by people struggling, you know, to liberate you from the pavilion. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, stop being spectators. You know, life is not about being a spectator. You need to actually take action, and you cannot vex about progress and gains. If I gain here, it's because I went to gym.
Yes.
So you can't vex if I have gains. You know, I'm not. Sorry, I'm not. You know, trying to just. I'm actually working out because I like looking good. You know what I'm saying? And I'm
self-improvement.
Yeah, it's all about that. So don't vex because I have gains, because I put in the work, because I have gains, you know. So if my spirit, if my nur is shining, know that I was putting the sacrifice, man. You know, if I have the discipline, know that we put in 10, 20 years in the base camp before we could become, you know, leaders or whatever, man. We must be humble and disciplined, you know, because sometimes we give the knowledge to people, but they're not disciplined, you know. And then what happens? They become ill-disciplined because they were not having that humbleness. Hence, you mustn't always give the secrets out. You mustn't always just give the knowledge to people that are not gonna respect it. The Bible says, don't throw your pearls to the swine. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's my word sound, man, you know. Aim stay steady, ground forces stay ready, you know. Dream states purging the dirty, Medi. You know, that's what I'm saying, man, you know. We are victims of mental capture, you know. So we need to rid ourselves of that and not be byproducts, you know, of mass production, you see, because our identities are byproducts at times, you know. Our culture, our hobbies are byproducts of what they want us to do. It's not really an organic, a natural thing. Yeah, man. So I don't wanna blaze too much fire, but man, find the light, you know. And read, guys. Read poetry. Read the news. Read Marcus Garvey. Read Google. Read Wikipedia. Read the lies. Read everything, man. Because a man that doesn't read doesn't even know the lies.
Yes, that's a heavy one. Fire, respect you.